Before starting this course on career counseling, it is extremely important to understand why you should take your career choice seriously. In this video, we will help you understand the importance of making the right career choice for yourself. So, why is your career choice so important? It is important because it determines a lot of things in your life, including number 1, quality of life. Your career choice plays a huge role in deciding where you live, how flexible your life is, and the kinds of things you are able to do in your free time. Number 2, identity. Ask any elder person about their career and they will tell you about it as a part of their identity. They'll say something like, I am a journalist, instead of, I report news. Notice how everybody asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And not, what do you want to do when you grow up? This shows that your career choice shapes your identity. Number 3, impact. Every human life touches thousands of other lives in so many different ways. If you select any 60-year-old person who is about to retire, take a time machine, find him as an infant, throw that infant into trash, and then come back to the present day, you'll find that a countless number of things around you have changed. So whatever career you choose, the world will be affected by it. Anything that determines your quality of life, your identity, and the impact that you make should be taken very seriously. And that includes your career choice also. So we hope that this short video could help you understand the importance of making the right career choice. Having done that, we will now move forward to start our career counseling course. We are pretty excited and we hope you are too. So, let's begin. See you.
Good evening, everyone. सबको स्वागत है. Welcome to day 65 of Probono's live podcast. Firstly, Mr. Sen and Pragya, welcome. And of course, welcome to all the audience members. Pragya is running the stream from behind the scenes. और आज के हमारे गेस्ट है Mr. Ravi Prakash Singh, who has been my teacher when I started off my bachelor's course. So I'm very happy to have him with us. Firstly, sir, welcome हमारे podcast में आपका स्वागत है. Thank you so much for coming. I know आपने बोला कि थोड़ा टाइम का इशू था आपके साथ. So thank you for making the time to talk with us.
Thank you very much, Samant. And I'm glad to see you. You are doing wonderful job. And for a teacher, it is a proud moment that any teacher who's just look at his student is doing well in the field. So first of all, congratulations to you. And thank you very much for inviting me on this occasion.
Thank you so much for coming, sir, and thank you for the kind words. So firstly, मैं introduce कर देता हूँ रवि सर को. Ravi Prakash Singh is working as a lecturer in special education at National Institute for Empowerment of Persons with Intellectual Disabilities, that is Divyangjan, Regional Center, Navi, Mumbai. He has a specialization in developmental disabilities, which are intellectual disability, autism spectrum disorder, and specific learning disabilities. Mr. Singh is having work experience of over 14 years in the field of disability rehabilitation at various levels in Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, SSA, and higher education. He has presented scientific papers and acted as a resource person in various international and national level seminars and conferences. He had authored 2 books in the field of developmental disabilities. Those books will be mentioned in the comments, so make sure you look out for that. He is also involved in curriculum planning at various innovative programs in disability rehabilitation. So, sir, thank you so much for coming. And also, he's like as I mentioned, he has been my teacher when I started off my degree at Amity University in special education. So again, welcome. Thank you so much for coming, sir. Sir, जितना मैंने बताया उसके अलावा अगर आप इंट्रोड्यूस कर सकते हो अपने आप को in your own words and address the audience, please do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening to everybody. As Mr. Samant has said that I'm working as lecturer in special education at National Institute for the Empowerment of Persons with Intellectual Disability. This institute is functioning under the for Empowerment of Persons with Disability, Divyangjan, under the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. This institute is the apex institution in the country which is working in the field of intellectual disabilities. I started my journey in the field of special education from Varanasi long back in 2003 when I completed my graduation and also after my schooling from Kendriya Vidyalaya BHU and then graduation from there. I was looking for a career which is little bit different and where I can have better challenges. So I was looking for some challenging career, and I was fortunate enough that there was one training institute which was hardly 1 kilometer from my school and my residence. So somehow I used to look at students with disabilities, which we call special need or Divyangjan nowadays. They used to go to their school and I used to look on my way so many times. And I thought what they are doing, how they are learning. And somehow I went to that institute to inquire about that, what all courses they are offering. And I was fortunate enough that they had started 2 years diploma in special education. So I got enrolled in that program in 2003. And that was the time when only two institute in whole Uttar Pradesh were offering this program, one in Lucknow and one in Varanasi. And nobody knows about all these programs. So I just joined because I want to do little bit different, and teaching was something in which I'm interested right from the beginning. So I thought, why not uh, to think about those people who are very much deprived from education and all sort of sections of the society. So persons with disabilities or Divyangjan. So I joined the course at that time. Not much scope was there in this field, but I was fortunate enough again to witness lot of progressive changes from then to till today. And when I passed out my diploma in special education 2005, I got selected by my own institute as a special educator, and for 4 to 5 months I worked there. And then some Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan started recruiting special educators for the first time in Uttar Pradesh in all the districts on block level and district levels. So I was very eager to work in rural sector. So I applied in almost 22 districts and I got selected 10 out of 12 districts. And first district which I joined was very much rural and away from my home district. That was Manpuri, that is near Itawa. So I started working, and that was the phase when nobody knows what is special educator. And we are supposed to go to 10 schools twice in a week and provide all kind of educational supports to children with intellectual disabilities. But the scenario was like that the children are not in the school. They were there in the village. So first what we did the survey, we find out the children, then we convince the teacher, get them enrolled in the school, and afterwards we started giving them educational support. I worked there for almost 6 months and then I moved to Mathura. This is the place of Lord Krishna. And there I worked as resource teacher, which is a district level post in Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan for almost 1 year. Afterwards, I become in charge district coordinator of integrated education of district Mathura. I was taking care of all children in the districts. We used to provide educational support. We used to provide aids and appliances, their sports meet, parent counseling. Lot of things were happening under Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan for these kids. Then whatever experience I learned, and in between I earned few more degrees like B.Ed in special education through Open Uttar Pradesh Rajarsi Tandon Open University, and I completed my PG also. Then I realized that whatever ground experiences I had learned, I should share these experiences in higher education as a teacher trainer. And from there in 2008, I moved to National Institute for Empowerment of Persons with Intellectual Disability Regional Center, New Delhi. And at that time, it was known as NIMH, which was in Lajpat Nagar. There I worked as faculty on contract for more than 4.5 years. And then I took a break because somehow I realized that, okay, I need more qualification. So I went to Secunderabad in 2011 and I did my MEd in special education, which was at that time 1 year program. And then after coming back again, joined the same institution. And in 2013, Amity University, which was the first private university, took initiative to start professional courses in this area. And I was fortunate enough to join that university. And in fact, I was the amongst first faculty to join the department, and we started the department named as MT Institute of Rehabilitation Sciences at Noida campus. And there we started with one program that was B.Ed in special education, specific learning disability. And within a period of 2 years, we were able to start 8 programs, including 3 programs of integrated and then B.Ed in special education in autism, in learning disability, in intellectual disability, and also MEd program. So in that way, I was working there, and then I also got opportunity in government jobs, at least 4 jobs as a special educator. I got selected. I didn't join, but when I got an opportunity in this institute in Navi Mumbai as a regular faculty, then I moved from Noida to Mumbai, and now 3 years I'm working here. So this is my small journey. But in the course of time, I witnessed a lot of changes in the field. Earlier, there were not much opportunities available for professionals, but now a lot of opportunities are opening up. A lot of scope is there in the field, which I'll talk later. So over to you, Samant.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I mean, Vese, I was going to get into, could you speak about your journey? But you already spoke about that. So thank you so much. So before we get into the podcast itself, we have a small announcement from the course that Probono is running along with in collaboration with the sports company. That is a sports management course where you get to explore the different careers in sports management. You get insight from industry professionals, and you also get step-by-step career planning with help from these particular professionals, and also you get to connect with popular sports figures and professionals as well. So guys, the number you see on the bottom right on the poster you see on the screen right now, do contact that particular number, or you can mail them for further queries and registration. We'll leave the image up for a few seconds if you want to take a screenshot. Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the podcast. Ravi sir, firstly, I mean, before we get into any kind of questions, audience question or Mr. Sen or my own questions, firstly, could you explain in brief what special education is? Hota kya ye field? You said Divyangjan, you said differently abled, the disabled and handicapped. We have a lot of terms. So आप briefly समझा सकते हो हमारे audience के लिए who are probably not aware about this particular field.
Okay, the special education means special education is mainly for children who are having special educational needs. There are a lot of children in the class who are having special educational need because they are having some physiological or psychological or cognitive deficits. So they need extra support, and the support which we provide is called special education. Say, for example, a child who is having visual impairment, if he is having low vision, he needs some assistive devices. So as a teacher, whether I am aware that what kind of assistive devices may be useful for the child, as a teacher, whether I'm aware that how to use those devices. Suppose if a child who is totally blind is in my class and he needs braille or abacus or tailor frame, those kind of equipment to study the same curriculum. As a teacher, whether I know how to use those things. If a child who are having problem hard of hearing or deaf, if he's hard of hearing, do I know how to give them instructions through sign language? Do I know how to use the hearing aid or group hearing aid system for them? So in that way, like also children who are having intellectual and developmental disabilities, do I know how to modify the teaching curriculum materials? The way I'm explaining the concepts to the whole class may not be useful for those children. They might not able to understand what I'm saying at that moment of time. So do I need to change my strategy? If the child is not able to learn the way I teach, then definitely I need to teach the way the child learns. So the moment I start adopting my curriculum, I start changing my teaching style, all these comes in special education. So in special education, we plan everything according to the needs and abilities of the child and try to fulfill their needs. In the classes everywhere, we find there are children who are struggling with academics. There are children who are having special education needs. So the job of special educator is to provide whatever support is required to those child so that they can also learn and excel in their career as any other child.
Right. And as per guys, point of information, as per RPWD Act 2016, that is the Rights for Persons with Disability Act 2016. The Act recognizes 21 different disabilities under our Constitution. So please refer to that if you want to learn more about what kind of disabilities are recognized. Sir, also just a quick heads up, if you could speak, keep your mic closer to your mouth. I think there's some audio distortion. Great. So firstly, we have the regulars, Anita ji, I think I'm sure Shikha ji is watching as well. Then there's Kritika Dogra, if you remember her from our batch. She's watching as well. And Anju ma'am is here as well. So everyone, welcome. आपके कोई भी सवाल है तो please do put them in the comment section. And when I did mention that Ravi sir has authored 2 books in regards to developmental disabilities, I have mentioned both of them in the comment section. The first book is available on neoped.nic.in, the official website under publications. And the second one is available by Kanishka Publications, Delhi. So the one question right now is, it's a huge question that I've been speaking to my classmates as well, since some of them are working in schools. The problem we are facing right now, coronavirus hai, and we understand that safety is more important than anything. But they are facing difficulty in teaching the kids through video calls. जाके पहले हम, we used to hands-on tell them or work with them hands-on, like physical prompting is what we use. So how do we deal with special education during the pandemic period where we are doing all our education through video call or through digital media?
Yeah, this is a difficult time for everybody, especially for parents and also for teachers. But the thing is that since you are not able to contact, you are not in direct contact of the child, then what all you can do? So definitely we need to look at the resources which is obviously available at the home of the child. Most of the time now parents are at home, they are not going to their work, or if they are going, that is at a limited period of time. So we need to look at who is the primary caretaker of the child at home. If it is mother, if it is sibling, if it is grandparents, if it is father, we need to orient them, and whatever things we are doing, we need to educate the parent or the primary caregiver of the child. Like you had rightly said that assistance which we are providing the children to write some letter or alphabet, what you can do, you can provide the worksheets, workbook and everything, but somewhere you need to talk to the parents or the primary caregiver how to carry out those activities. If you are able to communicate the things, and with videos you can get the feedback how the child is performing, then definitely you will get better result. We can communicate with the child directly with the help of technology, but somehow we had seen negative effects of technology also. A lot of small kids, those who are online sessions, they have lot of problem issue, mobile addiction and everything arising. And moreover, children who are having hyperactivity or short attention span, they are not focusing on mobile screens. So the thing is that definitely we need to take support of the other family members who are available at home. Okay.
Great, fantastic. जो कि आज का theme था that I did not mention was we're going to discuss more about the careers in special education. We'll get to that definitely, but before that, I want to hand it over to Mr. Sen. I'm sure he has a lot of questions about this field. So over to you, Mr. Sen.
Good evening, everyone. Namaskar. Welcome to the show. Thank you, Samant. It was very interesting when I was listening to you, Raviji, about that people are at home and you're facing a challenge. Now, my question is, would you say, would you agree or disagree, whatever it is, that with this lockdown, we are facing a social emergency due to the lack of proper education being imparted to the students, both normal students and definitely with a lot of emphasis to the people who are in need of special learning. So, for example, France has declared a social emergency because education is not being, conducted. What is your thought on the same thing in India?
No, the thing is that Cape, this is very unusual situations which we are facing for the first time. And definitely India, especially metros, are having the access of uh, these kind of technology. But when I talk to rural setup or where illiterate people are there, there is no access of technology as such. So definitely when the schools are closed, there is no external support from our sides. So definitely it is a social emergency, no doubt about that. But there are so many good things also in our society, like the kind of support and affection in the family environment which the children get. Although we are trying to keep the social distancing, and most of the time earlier we used to teach social skills to the children, but now we are trying to teach them social distancing. So these are the things which is very difficult, suddenly it came. But government is trying hard in this direction, and like lot of television channel are like this Swayam Prabha and other channels are there, which is having reach in the rural sector. So NCRT and other organizations, they are working in this direction, but communities may play a big role in this. And this is a very uh, unusual situation for us, in which we are going through. So we need to find some solutions.
Okay, that's a perfect answer. So now we are in a situation where we are in lockdown. The next stage is when lockdown is removed, then people will go back to school or whatever. And then that will continue for 3, 4, 5, 6 months with social distancing, all that sort of things. So my question is two parts. So what do you think in special education, will focus on that, is going to happen next? And then how do you think social education will evolve or change or continue beyond? That means after everything is gone, the pandemic has been sent home, it's gone away from our lives, we are supposedly back to normal. So beyond, so that can take about 1.5 years to 2 years. So we have two situations. Next, which could be in August, September, when people start going back to school, and beyond, which might take 1.5 years to 2 years. So what do you think might happen from your experience, from the way you're looking at the things? How do you think that's going to be taking shape?
See, the thing is that after this pandemic, even if the situation gets normal, our lifestyle will change. It will not be the same which was there in February 2020. So
That's
definitely our whole
absolutely correct. Yes,
lifestyle is going to change
absolutely.
after the normalcy. And then right now government is trying to start schools from July, August, at least from 9th to 12th standard, with 33% of or to 50% of class attendance, so that social distancing may be maintained. but most of our kids are in elementary school education. So that is one thing where, many children, especially if I talk about intellectual disability, they are not much aware about the hygiene issues. They are not much aware about the safety issues. So it will be definitely going to be challenging for us to, bring them back into the school as compared to other kids. Because if I give instructions to other kids, they may follow, but children with intellectual disability, autism, hyperactivity, it will be difficult for them to follow. Second thing, the class strength. In regular school, the class teacher student ratio is generally 1 is to 30 to 1 is to 40. Many government school, you will see when 60 kids are there in the class. But when I talk about the special education, the class student teacher student ratio is already low, which is 1 is to 8 to 1 is to 10. So in a classroom, there are 8 to 10 kids only. Okay, in special school setup. So that is one thing. If children are going to special school, and suppose if 4 kids are coming, teacher may follow the rule of social distancing, physical distancing, and they are able to teach the children. But definitely it would be very challenging, especially for those who are going to regular school in inclusive setup. That is going to be challenging.
Right. And then beyond, when this becomes a normal, that social distancing is normal, or things like that, how does it? What do you see happening? How does it play out?
So even if the things go beyond this pandemic, first of all, we need to take away lot of takeaways there from this pandemic. Like, health and hygiene is one big issue which needs to
Yep.
be given lot of importance in the curriculum, which was not earlier. Okay,
Absolutely.
so
Yep.
lot of the things are there which right now we are focusing. We need to teach the children. We need to train the children in those skills so that even though the situation become normal, they are able to maintain their good health and hygiene. So those are the things curriculum needs to be given importance and focus on those kids, those areas, and also lot of use of this mask or sanitizer or hand washing. All these things needs to be taken. Even though the situation become normal, we need to make them practice again and again.
That's also going to be a challenge, because in rural and India, in many places, you don't have water. You get potable water after people line up for a long time. That also is a challenge over there. So anyway, we'll have to solve all the challenges as they come along, I suppose. We'll have to see. Now, to talk about, there is one particular thing, and you mentioned it in your talk as we were coming in, is you focus on the individual child or the student, and then you find out what is required. So it's basically, I understand, is an individual education plan. So can you please tell us and the audience about what exactly is this and how it works?
See, the individual educational plan, which we call IEP, basically for the children, we prepare for each and every child because the need and abilities of the children with special needs is entirely different from the whole of the class. So first of all, we need to collect the information about the child. If the child is not succeeding in the academics, he is having repeated failure, he is not perform well in the classroom, then definitely it is a matter of concern for teacher and parents. At that moment of time, we need to assess the child first. Assessment is done with various tools which is available in the field of special education. Depending upon the kind and type of disability and the abilities or need of the child, we select some assessment tool. We do the assessment to find out what all abilities are there within the child, and comparing with the other children in the class, what are the areas where he's lacking. So once we are able to find out, then we need to select some goals for the child. Once we select the goals so that he is able to cope up with the curriculum, and he is able to may not be at par with other children, but he may come closer to those children if he is not able to at par with other children. So the thing is that we need to select some goals for the child, and once we select the goals, then we need to decide what is the best possible teaching strategies Like if a child is not learning mathematics on through chalk and board and duster activity, the same maths concept, computation or number concept I can teach through so many activities. Okay. In the garden, I may take the child and I may ask him to water plant, count and water plant. I may give some material and ask him to count. So there are so many other things through which children may learn. So the thing is that we need to decide right kind of strategy. If the task is very big for the child, we need to simplify the task at according to the level of the child and start teaching the child. So once we plan our program, then we fix up our strategy. We need to develop some appropriate material for the child. As I said earlier, if the children are having some deficit in vision, then definitely some other sensory modalities we can use, like they can learn through touch, they can learn through audio tapes, they can learn through other assistive devices. We need to find out those. And once we are able to find out, then and there may be certain topics which may not be applicable for the child at all. Like if a child who is having blindness, he may not learn color concept at all. So the teacher should not focus on those things. Okay, he should think which is functional for the child, which may help the child to cope up with the curriculum, which may help the child to make him independent. And then we start one-on-one teaching to the child. And then once IP is a time-bound program, so definitely if it is for 1 month, 3 months, 1 year, once the time is over, we need to evaluate the whole program, whether whatever objective we had set for the child, whether we are able to achieve. If not, then what are the problems, how we can modify our program so that the child can learn in future. So this is how IP goes with different children with special needs.
And what are the challenges when you make an IEP? I also understand it's quite a difficult thing to do, because if you have a class of 8 or 10, so you are handling 8 or 10 different IEPs. So
Yeah, definitely. IP is a very challenging thing. First of all, when we are dealing with kids, human behavior is very unpredictable. Some children, those who are having mood swings, today I'm teaching and the child is responding. Tomorrow, the same thing, child is not responding. Child may have some other issues and problem behavior which is affecting to my class. So IP is a very careful examination and planning. And definitely within a class of 8 to 10 children, teacher who is working continuously with them is aware of the children's behavior. So it may be difficult for us, but not for that teacher who is continuously working with those kids. He is aware of each and every behavior and aspect of the child. So the thing is that there are certain behaviors which may be taught in one-on-one settings. There are certain behaviors which may be taught in group. Like there are certain social skills. Okay, social skills cannot be taught in isolation. That can be taught only in social situations.
Correct.
Like if I am teaching a child how to say thank you, for that I cannot take the child in isolation and say ask them to say thank you, thank you, thank you. That can be done with group activity only. So the teacher needs to plan each and everything, and they need to record the things, and wherever application of technology is there, teachers should also use. Nowadays technology is playing a very important role in whole education system. So wherever teacher finds that they can use technology, they should use.
Okay, that's very interesting. And there is a case that even in the general education stream, we could have some sort of a loose individual education plan as well, because there could be subjects, some students may not be very cognitive about. So there is a case over there. Now at this point, I want to give it to someone to look at all the audience reactions and responses. And I'm quite sure there are going to be a lot of them.
There are actually a lot of questions today, and I'm glad to see that all the older Amity students are coming back. We have Radhika Sharma in the chat as well, and I'm sure there are a lot of students watching as well. When you did bring up the IEP, it actually reminded me of the first semester at Amity, where Sir was actually in charge of teaching us the IEP, how to prepare an IEP, how to write down the steps and all that. So one thing, I'll say this. Sir is a perfectionist. When it came to that, he was a perfectionist. He needed, okay, these are the norms on how you should write an IEP. I'm not going to take anything but that. It was a challenge for as a first semester student. It was a challenge, but it was a fun challenge. Let me see. There are a few comments. Firstly, there's a question by Anita ji, who's a regular on our show, who asks, "Welcome, sir. Are you seeing changes in the education system? Meaning, would education be online?" Also, I want to add a little bit to Anita ji's question. Is what are the changes you've seen over the last 15 years you've been in the field? And also the special emphasis on the exponential growth of edutech startups in India. Since people are saying that there is a market for education in India, and the privatization of the education industry.
Okay, so you are asking about the changes in the field of education.
Right.
Definitely, the education sector is changing a lot. And as far as technology is concerned, within last 2 months, we witnessed lot of progress in technology. Lot of webinars, web symposiums, these are going on. The technology through which we are interacting today, it was not 2 months before. Okay, so the thing is that education, definitely technology plays a very important role. In India, we had national education policy, which came in 1986. And since then, it is almost 34 years we don't have new education policy. However, education throughout the world changed very rapidly. It was not the same which was in 1986. Ministry of Human Resource Development, they are coming with the new education policy, and they designed a draft of new education policy which is available on the MHRD website. Okay, so there are a lot of changes going to happen once the policy get passed from the government, and we'll see, like, say for example, there will be nothing, no term like co-curricular activity or extracurricular activity. Now everything will be curricular only. Then there will be a lot of use of this technology in the education. Then the education system, which is 5 plus 3 plus 2 plus 3 pattern, like 10 plus 2, 5 years for primary education, then 3 years for upper primary, then again 4 years for this higher secondary education. Now there will be 4 stages, which also include the preschool education. This policy is going to is like from UKG, LKG 1 and 2. These are clubbed under foundational stage. So this education policy is going to bring lot of changes in the field of education, no doubt about that. As far as teachers are concerned, teachers also need to get upgraded, because we are 21st century teachers, and now earlier teachers were the primary source of information, but nowadays we are no more the primary source of information. The moment I say something wrong here in front of you, you may immediately check it on Google. Okay, so there was no pressure of Google earlier on teachers. So definitely, if we are, we cannot deny the technology, we cannot deny its use and its influence on our life, but all we can do is upgrade ourselves. So teacher needs to go part and parcel with educational competency as well as technological competency. Otherwise, what will happen? We are going to teach the generation which is better in terms of technology than us. If you don't believe me, then you can ask any kind of software to a child who is 10 to 12-year old at your home. They have more knowledge than you about the technology, and you are going to teach that generation. So definitely the role of teacher nowadays is becoming more and more challenging, and we need to upgrade ourselves time to time. And that is why in-service teacher training programs play a very vital role. Because teaching is not something which I become once a teacher, then I may carry that skill for a longer time. It is changing every day.
Right, and of course, this comes up each and every podcast. Rosie, ये topic आते रहता है, as said by Rajiv sir, Saibal sir, Samar sir, Kapil sir, everybody, like almost 50% of the guests we had on our podcast have kept saying this: unlearn, relearn, and keep adapting yourself to the scenarios that is today. With that, so there are multiple questions by Radhika Sharma. Firstly, she asks, hello Ravi sir, since UGC has approved 2 degrees rule now, what is your take on this? On how effective would it be? Do you think we'll be able to justify with both degrees? And also, she has also asked a question about the colleges and the teacher training programs in this particular field, and any entrance exams that we need to address, that we need to attend. So if you could address the first one, which is
Okay.
the
Hello,
2 degree rule,
Radhika. Yeah.
and also
So
if
many
you could address
questions
the
all
different
together.
courses. Right.
So many questions all together. So I'll go one by one. First of all, recently UGC had issued a circular to carry out 2 PG programs together. But in that circular, one program will be through regular mode, another program will be through online mode. So this is a good step, and I, congratulate UGC in this, because if a person who is going through regular program and also pursue distance mode or online program at the same time, it will save crucial years of the career. Say for example, to becoming a lecturer in the field of special education, first you have to go through graduation, then 3 years, then 2 years B.Ed, then 2 years M.Ed, then again 2 years M.A. or second MSc or whatever, second PG. Now it is taking almost 9 years of education. However, if you can do M.Ed and MSc all together, or M.Ed and MA all together, it will save you 2 years, which is very crucial, because for 2 years you can earn, you can have experience through working experience in that period of time, and you will become eligible. And sometimes the jobs are also having age bars. So suppose you are completing everything, but by the time you are completing, vacancies are not there. When vacancies are coming after 3-4 years, you are overage. So that is one problem where many of people are nowadays facing. So if it is able to save your valuable time, then nothing like that. All the things what you have to do is to put some extra effort, because you want to take 2 degrees. So the quality should not be compromised. So you have to do little bit extra effort. And if you are able to do that, nothing like that. Then what was the second question?
She wanted to know about the colleges that are available for recruitment of teacher trainings in the field of education, and if there are any entrance exams that she needs that are required to join in this.
See, the colleges which is available for teacher training, the list of colleges are already available on the website of Rehabilitation Council of India. If I talk about special education colleges, so you can see the list of colleges and the courses which they are offering. Majority of the colleges in the field of special education are in private sector. So they are offering the programs, and definitely those who are offering also require human resource teacher trainers. So the thing is that you may take the list of colleges from there. And entrance exam for becoming a faculty, although in special education it is not necessary, but in education many of the central university nowadays are asking for UGC net in education. So if you want to be a teacher educator, then you have to go with UGC net. If you want to be special educator or a general teacher, then you have to go to teachers eligibility test. It could be central teachers eligibility test, which is CTET, or if the state is having own eligibility test, then state eligibility test.
Sir, I think there's some very minor network issue from your end, but I guess the last was the point that sir was making is a teacher eligibility test. That is one, the CTET, which is a central teacher eligibility test, and the state TET, that is a state-wise teacher eligibility test. Right. Sir, there's another question by Kritika Dogra, और थोड़ा लंबा सा question है, so please bear with me. Kritika says, since we're in this pandemic situation, general education teachers commence the online classes. I personally felt that that's not how special education might or should work. So I do interact with through video calls, but I'm mainly providing them with weekly home plan, that is concept acquisition through fun activities, where I feel getting parents trained at this time is a great option. But I don't know how long it'll take for the kids to actually come back to normal school's life. How do we keep going with our children with special needs for a long run?
So it is a long question and $1 million question when the things will get normal. So right now we are hoping for the best and we are hoping that in next 2 3 months the situation become normal. But we have doubt on that. Meanwhile, the things which you are doing is you are in right direction because you are, as I said earlier, you are in direct contact with parents. You are trying to train them, and also you are having small interaction with kids also. So the thing is that if you are able to give them right kind of plan and activity, it is not only giving them educational support, but lot of psychological support is there with the parents. First of all, parents realize that there is somebody who is taking care of their child. This is not a very small thing. This is a very big thing. They can share the problems with somebody, especially with their teachers. So these are the things which is very helpful for them to face these kind of challenging situations. You are in the right direction. I congratulate you.
Right. Also, guys, I will be posting a link to all the approved institutions from RCI. The website is rehabcouncil.nic.in. So do go through that. I'm also posting a link to the PDF document. It's a 67 long page a document, 67 pages. But if you are interested in going through the list of the institutes that offer special education courses, I'm posting the link in the comments. So just keep an eye out for that. There's a question by Anju ma'am who says, if a special needs child is there in my class and I'm not a trained special educator, by the way, sir, Anju ma'am is primarily a Hindi teacher. She was my teacher back in 10th grade. As she says, so how should I handle this kind of child along with other so many kids? As a teacher, I always feel how much justice is it for a teacher and also for the child.
Yeah, see, this is a big question from especially from general education teachers, and this is a big challenge for them also because they are not trained to handle or they are not equipped enough to handle the children with special need in their class. And this is very challenging because after Right to Education Act, nowadays it is a matter of policy that each and every child should go to their nearby regular school. As a result, the children, those who were out of school earlier l- with because of their problem or disabilities, now everybody is there in the class. But the teacher is equipped enough to deal such a diverse range of learners or not. So that this is a very challenging situation for teachers because many teachers, even special educators, don't know how to teach a special needs child in a regular class. So the thing is that ideally the schools should have resource teacher support. Like in Delhi, as per my knowledge, lot of special educators are being recruited by Delhi subordinate, uh, and they are working and providing resource support to the teachers, those who are teaching the children in the class. Apart from this, uh, there are certain approaches through which teacher can teach the child with diverse range of learning needs in the class. One approach which we call is universal design for learning, that is UDL. So we can have some session because it is a big concept, but in short what I want to say, in universal design for learning we try to teach the same concept through various means of presentation. Means teacher will present the concept through audio means, visual means, kinesthetic and tactile mode, means some activity mode. Then how teacher is going to engage the student in the class through various means, and then how teacher is going to evaluate the children. So in these three things we need to provide multiple option. This will not only benefit the children with special need in the class, but this will also benefit the regular student, because many regular child who is in the class, and if I conduct a written test and suppose he is not good in handwriting or his writing speed is not good, He may not be give all the answers in the way which he wished to. But if I conduct the oral test for the same child, he may be able to tell all the answers. So all we need is we need to be flexible enough and provide flexibility in our teaching so that we can cater the needs of children with special need. Wherever we face difficulty, we need to take specialized support from resource teacher. That is how we are working.
Great. And also, it did remind me of Monday's podcast with Christopher Sir, who mentioned the dynamic curriculum. You know, where if an institution has the autonomy to create a curriculum on their own, I think they absolutely need to incorporate the concept of a dynamic curriculum, where it's not just what is good for the child, where you're teaching the child or the student, you're also simultaneously actively teaching the teacher as well. You're teaching the teacher to be updated with the society, with the technology, and all the new practices. So I think that's very important. And I personally, as a new teacher, not as experienced as sir, obviously, I think it's important to keep learning what's out there. There's a comment by Radhika Sharma. I guess she's sharing an experience. She says, I've been trying so hard to implement behavior modification, but it gets very difficult for children living in a joint family. I have oriented the family as well, but the mother follows them. But the grandmother, out of love for her grandchild, does not, and so on and so forth. So that's the challenges she's facing right now. So let's see. Pushkar Das has joined the stream as well, and Deepthi ma'am, Deepthi Ahuja ma'am, she's joined the chat as well. She is our teacher from Amity and Ravi sir's colleague at Amity University. Good to see you, ma'am. So let's see.
Hello, Dipti ma'am.
Right. There's a question by Aditya Bose. So actually, Aditya Bose is the founder and CEO of Pro Bono, the company, but currently he was taking a class, so he could not be here with us today. He has a question: are there enough people in the special education field to fulfill the needs of the students, or do we need more?
Definitely, there are not enough people in the field to fulfill the needs because I'll give you some data. In census 2011, there were 2.21% people with disability in the country, which was 2.68 crore people. And almost 40% of the people, those who are below 18 years, those who require special education support, those who are having special needs. In special education, we go with the teacher student ratio 1:10. So for giving educational support to those 1 crore people, we require 10 lakh special educators or teachers. However, as per RCI's latest data, Rehabilitation Council registered professionals, there are 1.4 lakh people trained special educator in the country. So there is deficit of 8.6 lakh professionals. But the thing is that this is not demand and supply, this is need and supply. There is a need, but the need is not converted into demand. That is the problem. Second thing, the census data is very less because when census was conducted, there were only 8 categories of disability included. But now, as Mr. Samant has mentioned, under rights of person with disability at 2016, there are 21 categories of disabilities which is now included. Out of which specific learning disability, which was not earlier, we assume that 5 to 7% of class population is having some sort of specific learning disability. So the thing is that whatever data I had given was 2011 census based on that, but the number of trained professional requirement is quite high, and at present country is not having that much professionals. So this is the sad figure. But the thing is that many of the things we may also train our regular teachers in inclusive strategies, because earlier the B.Ed and M.Ed were 1 year program, but now it is 2 year program. There is one paper on inclusive education in the curriculum of regular B.Ed also. So if we are able to train and develop the competencies of regular teachers only, then we can cope up with the situation.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. Abhi ke liye we'll take one last audience question. We have to adhere to the timeline as well. Uh, so let's see. Rupali Dua, she's a student of MIT as well. She asked, sir, after graduation, what do you suggest in the year 2020? Doing a diploma and then having years of work experience after that, or to do an MEd and connect with any organization simultaneously? She has followed up with a different comment. Considering the current situation and not to waste the year 2020, what steps should I take to develop more effectively in this field?
Is she a student of which program?
She's currently in the final year of the BA plus B.Ed program.
Okay. So I always suggest students, especially through integrated course, those who are undergoing integrated course, to complete their PG in a go. Like, don't take a break and go for job and then coming back, because it is always difficult to get into the job. This is my personal experience. I get into the job and then coming back to the education, then going back to the job. I did a lot of time. On the basis of my individual experience, I always say that if you are able to go with PG courses directly after this your degree program, then it is good enough. Nothing like that. As UGC has asked, already given permission of 2 PG courses. So special education you can do through online regular mode, and one more MA or some other course through online mode you can complete. And next 2 years, after 2 years, once you are getting into the field, you are having sound knowledge and you have more opportunities by the time. Because as a teacher educator, you can function, you can work in special schools, you can go for UGC NET examination, lot of opportunity. You can go for PhD also. So these opportunities you'll get at early stage, and time is very important. Right now, lot of government and private institutions are having releasing their admission notification uh, in MEd programs. So you can have a watch on that, and you may apply for that.
Great, fantastic. So before we end, what is your message for all the aspiring special educators or even teachers in general? What is your message for them?
So the message is very clear. First of all, teaching is a noble profession, mother of all professions. So becoming a teacher itself is a very proud thing. But there are children who are always struggling in the regular education system. There are children who are not even access of regular education system or even special education system and deprived from them. So in special educator, as a special educator, we can work for them, we can bring them to life, because education is base of everything. So we may develop them only through education. There is no other means and way. So the thing is that as a profession, definitely it will give special education gives a lot of satisfaction to everybody. Second thing, as a career opportunities also in recent year, lot of vacancies are coming in the field. Like Delhi subordinate has already advertised 2700 vacancies in 2010. The selection process is still going on 10 years and the seats are still vacant. So it is very difficult that in government sector, government jobs, some seats are vacant and government is advertising again and again. These are the rare situations. So as a career also, my personal experience is that this field is very much, uh, you can have good earning in this. You can have goodwill also. So nothing like that is a combination of both.
Great. With that, of course, we couldn't get to a few of the audience questions because we need to stick to the timeline that we have planned. Kritika says thank you, sir. Radhika Sharma says thank you, sir, as well. Kritika, मेरे को सर बोलने की जरूरत नहीं है. I'm just the host. You don't need to call me sir. दोनों साथ में ही graduate किए हुए हैं. So that's not a need. So with that, thank you so much, sir. Ravi sir, आपने we called you yesterday and you were ready to attend the podcast a day after. So thank you so much for coming. And of course, Mr. Sen and Pragya, thank you so much for coming. And the audience, firstly, thank you for all the questions, comments, and insights. Ravi sir, thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Guys, one request, you may share the PPT with the audience, which I had given to you.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah.
Or guys, if you want a 2.0 with sir, another session to discuss more about this particular field, We'll try to get multiple special educators or professionals from this field so that we can have a comprehensive discussion. So if you want that, do type 2.0 in the comment section, and we'll let you know, and we'll figure out when we can have that. So thank you so much, sir, for coming. It was an honor to have you back with us. So talk to you again after, I think, 4 years now, 4.5 years.
Yeah, that's true. After a long gap.
Right. So thank you so much. So guys, stay home, stay safe, wash your hands. See you tomorrow at 6 p.m. with another guest. Like and follow our Facebook page and turn on post notifications to get notified when we do go live. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch our live streams about entrepreneurship. Take care now. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.